that the method holds the potential to bring you out of that. So I can laugh and I can smile, and it's with you, because I so know it. I so remember it. You know, and I think when I forget it, I'll lose my ability. I feel like I won't teach as well, or I won't be able to, you know. And I struggled a lot. I wasn't particularly flexible. Yeah. I didn't say a word in my training, talking about voice. I was so self-conscious, inhibited, shy. And now look at me. It's still that me's still there, actually. That me's still there. Okay, so yes. And I started, you know, when Susan and Zoran gave me the lessons they wanted me to teach, and I went back to do this. Oh my God, what have I lost? And I love that. I love discovering that. You know, it's like, oh, that slipped out of my awareness. Actually, it didn't really. I had some circumstances that I knew were a strain on me. So, but then I'm in the place that you are, because I have known it and I can't do it now. And so I have to really connect with myself, attune to myself, to make the distinctions in order to make them, I hope, more real to you. Whereas if it's nothing for me, maybe I know what to pay attention to guide you. But personally, I am more satisfied when it's in me, kinesthetically in me. And this morning I played with a sock. My dogs wanted to play with a sock too. But so we're going to do a little bit of we're going to go back to revisit something and do a little bit of FI around it. So this is going to have two parts. The first part, you're going to waken up your awareness of what's happening in the skeleton when you do this, lift the foot, and lift the knee. So you see this beautiful skeleton. So what sort of things have you felt? What changing relationships can you just call out, and I'll repeat them rather than throwing the box around? Side bending. So when you've done which? Lifting the knee is side bending on which side? Yes, but bending, I tend to think of coming together, side bending. So he's on his right side. If lift the foot. Yeah. So if you lift the knee, that's why I'm clarifying it with you. Yes. If you lift the foot through the skeletal connections, you tend to get the internal rotation of the hip, the movement of the pelvis upwards. Depends on the person's organization, of course. And if he was to lift his head, it would be activating the abdominals from both ends. It still may. Okay. So what happens in relationship with the ground when you do this? Does anything press into the ground? Right side of your pelvis? Yep. Oh, and somewhere in the right ribs or the right shoulder. Good. So we're getting kind of a landscape, and you're going to observe this before we... And then when you lift the knee, keeping the foot together, what do you remember? Pardon? Change the contact where? On the right side? Yes. On the right side. Yep. So the head. What else? It's constraint of the pelvis. Yep. Do you? Do you need to lift your knee higher than the pelvis? Do you mean forwards and backwards that way? Or do you mean... Okay. Of what? The knee or the foot? We're not doing that. We're keeping the feet together. So you can see it's important. No, that's okay. It's just important to get on the same page. Yeah. And so different movements will show different things. Different movements will show... So a person might look totally flexible in one particular movement or direction or pattern, and then another they're stuck. So we don't want to make assumptions about what happens, but with a skeleton we can start to think about the optimal, and you're starting to relate to how a skeleton can move, and the sensations in yourself through the ATMs that give you an understanding of the changing relationships that you can then project back onto the skeleton and internalize further yourself. So here, when the knee lifts away, look what's happening to the pelvis. Turning. It's a turning. But then what direction it's able to turn in depends on what's happening in the vertebra or the muscles of the back. Because I can keep the arch in my back. I can keep the arch in my back, and then I think, oh, my leg only lifts that high, perhaps. Or I can keep the arch in my back, but I can't keep my feet together, so I've really got to work somewhere else. Or what else can happen in the lumbar spine? Flex. Yes. So that, and unfortunately, that's one action that he doesn't do very well. That's right, because he's got a rod down his back. So as the pelvis is turning and moving backwards relative to himself, there can the direction, because of the weight of the thorax and the spine, tends to be backwards and downwards, which rounds the lumbar vertebra. Anyone know that that's easy for them? What I'm talking about? It's a different movement. Do you want to try this one for us? See if you can find it. Yep. Yeah, so that's one strategy. Let's just do the other way for start, because that's actually us. We've been talking about cross-motivation and finding parts of ourselves that can support the action that we want to go in. So just do it the way you did it first, Lockie. So see there, his leg, if you put a little arrow on it, is coming this way. Yes? But look at the direction his lumbar spine is going in. Well, we don't need that. We don't need to. Skin, thank you. Beautiful back. It's not that I don't like your back, but we want to learn to see through clothes. And I'll just, if you don't know why, I'll say in a minute. Can you do it once more? Can you see that if you put an arrow here, it's going forwards? So often we do that and we don't know that we're doing it. So the more you can be like a detective in yourself and find those places, the more you'll understand what you're doing. That's okay. You can rest for a second. Okay, that's great. So now if I put my hand on Lockie's back, can you see how it's rounding backwards? Maybe it's easier to see over here to begin with, then you can learn to use your X-ray vision. So, okay. So if I put my hand, look at the pathway of my hand in space. Relative to his head, it's moving downwards. Yes? And what that does, if there's no unnecessary work going on the lower back, just do the beginning part of it for us, Lockie. See how his back's moving backwards. Backwards. Does that make sense to you? Yeah? Oh, could you wait for the box? No, that's all right. I just saw Jenny moving and I thought, she's bringing it. She was ahead of us, but I didn't. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Lockie. Yeah.
I kind of feel like it should be more sequential, but I can't make it so, and I don't know if that's my own thought or. And so I noticed when Lockie was doing it.
Yeah, how sequential it was.
Well, no, actually.
No,
it kind
okay.
of felt like
Come back, Lockie, please.
The top and bottom were moved. It was almost like the weight of the pelvis moved all of the torso at the same time.
Well, that's the tricky thing. So it can go really slowly. So he is actually moving ahead of himself with his shoulder, upper torso.
And that's what I feel as well.
That's fine.
Okay.
Can you start the leg and, do it. So we talk about the initiation of movement, and we can initiate an action from many different places. Sometimes it's simultaneous, like it was before, his shoulder and his pelvis, the timing of them was together. Then the question is, does it need to be?
Yeah, because I feel like this part, like really, and I think spiral, like I'm spiraling through my leg. When it gets to my pelvis, everything moves together then.
Okay. Let's have you, would you mind lying down too?
Sure.
So Lockie, you stay there. We'll just, and then we'll put Emma, if you go here. Well, then I have a choice about what to. You can't. Can you see that, Emma? Lockie's cuddling the skeleton, and using the skeleton. That's what they're laughing at. Yeah. Okay. And come back. So, Lockie, can you do it too, please? Yes. So, there are definite differences. There's a little bit, Lockie's knees are a little more bent than Emma's, so that's going to change the leverage of the leg. A little bit more, yeah. Not quite, so not your hips, just your knees. So both of those acts there are good. It's moving through their whole self. Just going to try and give you a sense. I think you missed these lessons. So, yeah. So really keep your foot there. So your foot leans on the other one. That's it. So what I saw was that this was out of Emma's awareness. I mean, she's still doing an action that looks like the movement's distributed. She was using almost her entire self, but the angle of her legs affected the direction of her pelvis. And you can see there's just a little moment. Once more, a little moment. It's beautiful action. Does it feel good? Oh, okay. There's just a tiny little moment where there's a speed hump, where the speed changes to almost nothing. So let's see if you can, you saw it? Yeah, yeah. There. So it's not quite completely reversible. And those are the I mean, most people that we would be working with, it's much more obvious than that. It'd be like the shoulders would stay there, but you're both using the ground, rolling across the ground. They've got rotation through the center of themselves within their spine, as well as over the ground. Does that make sense? Could you do it how you did it before?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was because I was actually doing more of that with my foot. So when I was initiating, I actually was really moving my foot up, which really made it more spirally than just a rotation up, right?
Yeah.
But when you made me keep my foot there and made it more about just almost like hip opening, I felt more like a rotisserie, like half of my body opening up.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Thank you. Any other questions about this? Okay, hold them. I would like you to get together with fours. So two people observe, two people will do the movement. And I'd like you to do the alternating movement. So you lift the foot, keeping the knees together, then lower the foot, separate the knees. Just look for differences. What differences do you see in either where the movement is happening or the flow of the movement? Just going to watch for now, because the next part's going to be touching. But you're going to do this, swap roles. So you'll have 2 or 3 minutes, swap roles, 2 or 3 minutes, come back.